Hey everyone. Can everybody see me okay? Thanks for coming. I got bored. I worked really hard today, actually. And I was so busy today. I'm nursing a cold, as you all know. Caught a little bit of an infection in the throat, so I'm trying to take it easy. So yeah, I did a couple of remotes, and I wanted to just get on and just hang out with people for maybe, I don't know, half an hour. Maybe we can do some blitzes. It's a weird night for me because I was feeling lonely. You know, you got the cold. The cough part is almost over. Now it's just, what it is. But I was looking to see if Johnny or Becky or somebody was going to come on because, you're not feeling well, you want to be with your tribe, and nobody came on. So I thought, okay, I'll do it. But I'll be sipping sage tea with honey while I do the blitzes tonight. So let's give gratitude to everybody who took the time out of their busy days to just visit little old me, and I do appreciate that. So hello to Sharon, she was the first here, and Robin. Bugs Bunny, thanks for, you said you're gonna fall asleep. Oh, and Sherry Stewart, hello, Sherry. Linda, welcome. Donna, hello. Linda, Cindy Loomis is here. Torvi, hello. Lizon, Susan, Karen, Hiya Sweets, hello. Denise, Twin Flames, Carol, Della, Eileen is here. Hello, Eileen. All right, so again, apologies to everybody. I was kind of in a funky mood the last time we went on, and I want to apologize for that. Some buttons just get pushed with me, and a button got pushed, and I wasn't feeling well, and people were, sending me messages complaining about my cough. Sometimes people get sick, and so I was a bit cranky. So I apologize if I took it out on anyone. Looks like we're low. We don't have a moderator right now. Oh, we do. Noel, thank you for coming on. Do we need to pick another moderator before we get started? I think Noel might be a little overwhelmed. Oh, Keisha's here. Well, if it's legitimate criticism, Terry, like if it's just feedback about something that needs to be clarified or something like that, but getting emails from people saying my cough is annoying and you have no idea how annoying you are, that really pushes my buttons because, as people know, this is this is just for fun. It's not a job. I'm not getting paid. We're just, so what's with the attitude? I'm not an employee. I'm just somebody hanging out with a hobby. So yeah, it was a bit much. It's a bit much. All right, so I did a couple remotes, and I want to talk a little bit about them. I had requests from people if I could go into certain areas, go into certain energy. And specifically, they wanted me, I said no, but they wanted me to check on Brexit and what's going on in Britain. And we do have a lot of, fans from Britain. So, it's an interesting feeling to meditate, put yourself in the meditative state, and then try and go into the feeling objectively. For me as an American, if I try and go into the energy of what Britain feels like right now, and you can approach it from different avenues. The common individual, living in a small town somewhere, worried about their future, somebody in parliament. There's so many ways that you could look at this situation. And there's so many ways that I did look at it. But the first focus, the first target for me was actually the Tories. And it's interesting, my target when I went in was to try and go in and see what the Tories were up to. It's like a scent. I want to take a second also for the people that are becoming, you don't have to be a professional remote viewer to get training as a heart-centered remote viewer, but I do want to just take a second, because I know some of the people here are in training as professional readers, etc. So if you've done any healing work, if you've done any energy work, that a psychic, particularly a remote viewer, and also if you're a scientist or a researcher, or you have somebody that's working with a remote viewer, the best way to describe it is that your remote viewer, your professional empath, is kind of like a bloodhound, and a bloodhound will try and capture the scent. You'll give the bloodhound the smell, and then they will go and try and find it. And for a well-trained remote viewer, that's exactly it. You give them the smell. This is the target. This is the energy. Now go find it. So that's why I think a lot of people assume that if you're a remote viewer, you don't do any background research or anything like that. But you do have to have some background, if nothing else, so that you know where you're going. You're trying to align that feeling or that energy you have when you contemplate that thing. You're trying to find it. An example would be if you're a remote viewer and you're trying to locate where potential fires are breaking out in the United States. We all know what the feeling of heat is, right? We all know what that sensation is. We all know how our body responds. Because heart-centered remote viewers are professional empaths, that's the area we train you in, is to be conscious or to be sensitive to how you feel when you come in contact with certain things, whether it's a smell or a food, whatever it is you're trying to identify. So when I went into, the scent that I was going for was how the Tories were responding to Brexit. So that was the thing that I targeted when I went in. And so the reason I just give the explanation of the bloodhound is so that you understand that for the heart-centered remote viewer, I don't necessarily always know where the scent or the target's going to take me, because my focus isn't trying to get somewhere specific. My focus is, okay, I know the scent, I know the energy of that individual. Now I got to go find it. And then once I find it, you're going to start finding that you're like a dog on a bone. You're going to keep digging until you get to the core of what you can find from that energy, depending upon what that individual is willing to tell you. So in the case of the Tories and Brexit, when I went in and, we did our thing, the first person I made connection with was Theresa May, of all people. So that was a little confusing because she's not the head of the Tories. So if there's anybody from Britain, why she would be the main, I didn't get the current administration at all. Johnson and Brexit, I didn't get any of those people. I actually got, the main emotion I got was coming off of Theresa May. Here's the message I got collectively from the people in Britain that are working on this. But this is the Tory perspective. This isn't even the Labour perspective. And what they said, what is Theresa May's perspective? It is a slow, horrific car crash. This is a Tory talking about Brexit. It is a slow, horrific car crash. So then I asked Theresa May in the meditative state, could you please elaborate? What do you mean when you say it's a slow, horrific car crash? She said basically how it is for her and the rest of the Tory people in Parliament is, she said, nobody can move, but everybody is begging somebody to do something. It's horrific. It's like a slow-moving car crash, and no one is doing anything. It's like no one's in charge. There are no adults in the room. Anybody from Britain know what she's talking about? Thank you, Chacha Brown. That's very kind of you. So the target, the energy, when you go into the room and you're there in Parliament, and I've got my target that took me there, right? And I'm connecting with it, and I'm like, you got anything for me? She's like, yeah, there's nobody in charge here. It's a disaster. And she's sitting there like, oh my God, do something, do something. And everybody's saying the same thing, do something, but nobody can do something because it's not possible. So they have now found themselves in a situation that's becoming increasingly dire. It's a really scary, scary energy. And it keeps going back to this feeling of being in knots and contracts and laws all being jumbled up. Yeah. Can you believe that? So Jennifer, do you know anything about if you can, anybody from Britain can just explain to those of us, we don't really know exactly what's going on. I just can tell you what I see as a remote viewer, so that there's nobody in charge. There's Jeremy, not Joe, who's that guy? See, we're Americans. The people that's the prime minister now, I didn't even see him in the remote. He didn't even come up. If you're hearing sirens, it's Friday night. Shabbat shalom to everybody, if you celebrate. We have protests here downtown, and they get really wild Friday, Saturday night. So you will start to hear a little bit of the sirens. All right. Did anybody have questions about the first remote, or can we move on to another remote? Or did anyone have a Boris Johnson? He didn't come up. I didn't even see him. You know, it's interesting, though, if you go into a remote on Brexit and you don't see Boris Johnson, it makes me think he's not totally recovered. His energy might be so low that he's a little bit offline. You know, he didn't have a vibrant energy when I went in. It was a little offline. Yeah, Boris, I didn't get it. What was the question about? The mushrooms are all outside. I caught a throat infection. I have a cold. And I will be coughing, so people, I don't want any negative. You can turn it off if you don't want to hear me coughing. I get allergies, I get colds, I'm just a person, and these things happen. And this is a free service. You get what you pay for. No. Obviously, I want you to stay and hang out, but if me not feeling well bothers you, then you can catch the stream another day. All right, so can we, did anybody have any more questions about what's going on in Europe or with Brexit? And I'm really kind of worried, to be honest with you. It continued on. Then I tried to enter Britain from the perspective of the average Brit. I was targeting areas like Liverpool, Manchester. I was going into specific verses, going to I don't know, Hastings or something, trying different areas to see the response. And it was the same exact response. It's a feeling of a slow-moving train crash or a car crash. I didn't feel much of an energetic difference between the average guy having a beer in Liverpool and the pubs are closed and he can't, that guy, the only difference energetically between the two people is the intensity. It's that Theresa May, it was really a feeling of horror. It's like their eyes are opening up and they realize that what the hell have we done? This is impossible. But there was an added element to it when I went into the energy of the guy from the north. He said something interesting. He said, everybody is looking for leadership and there is none. And he said the same thing about it being like a slow-moving train crash. But he said something else. He said it's like they're slowly, Britain's becoming more and more, it's desperate. But the other horrific thing is that they're like alone on an island. So they're slipping economically. They're economically starting to collapse. The horror of what they did is starting to happen. And they cut their lifelines. When this pandemic, when everything went down, and then the horrible realization that they have cut their lifelines, so that if they desperately needed help from certain relationships, they're not going to be the first on the list to get aid. Say, for example, if the EU can give aid. So there's also this growing feeling when you go into this energy, like, we not only are seeing the train crash, but it's not like we can pick up the phone and call 911. We're it. It's that kind of a horror. Yeah. All right. So then I'll continue on now. So then the next target was Europe, and specifically I was focusing on the energy I felt as I entered into the European market. Policies regarding stabilizing the economy. And I often will make contact with the woman who heads, she's involved with the World Bank, and I can never remember her official title. She's blonde. Every time I go into the economic situation in Europe, I see her, and she is really the eye of the storm. It's her that holds a lot of the tension. So she became the target when I went in, and from her perspective regarding Europe and COVID and everything else that's going on, she says Europe is policing, and they are looking at existing policies, and they're constantly having, I guess they're having like they're having meetings via via computer, virtual meetings. And she said that at this point, it's the thing that's grim for Europe right now is that they feel that they can no longer rely on the United States. The realization, because we're not globalists, the realization is now hitting different parts of Europe, Britain, etc., that they're on their own. That, it's like that song, we get by with a little help from our friends. Well, the friends are gone because everybody wanted to be independent. Okay, good luck with that. So what she was saying, what's her name? Does anybody know? Some people know her name, the head of the World Bank. She said that the global market and emergency aid is set up in such a way where we can pause the economy, and we also have emergency stores. They have rations, they have emergency stuff that they've put aside to help in these sorts of global catastrophes, because they can't just think about what's going on in EU. It's like a ripple effect. And the people that are going to be the most vulnerable are the emerging economies, the economies, the poor and the emerging economies. So what she was saying in the remote is that just in terms of emergency aid from the World Health Organization, they're going to run out in about 3-4 years. They have a certain amount of emergency aid, and it's gotten to a point where they're now looking at the global crisis that they're facing that could go on for years, and they're beginning to consider the possibility that we could be looking at large populations of people possibly succumbing to hunger, because she kept talking about these food stores, emergency aid in areas that are vulnerable. She said that both Europe and Britain increasingly look for leadership, but there's none. Increasing isolation is horrific and Britain remains as a sinking island without a raft. People want to talk a little bit about that before we go to the next remote? I mean, what a nightmare. Can you imagine waking up like, oh my God, this is, if we had known that all of this was going to happen, too little, too late. So, I do think it is, it is scary and gloomy, but I think the spiritual lesson is that, nobody's an island, and we have to help each other. I mean, I can't imagine if Joe Biden gets elected that he would just sit back and let Britain go under and all these other, but I think if, this is why we're voting, right? But it is that kind of an energy. Okay, we're ready to go on to the next remote, and then we're going to do blitzes. Christine Lagarde, I always see her. Christine Lagarde, every time I go in, and I'm looking for high amounts of energy, and I always wind up, like the psychic who's the bloodhound. I know what I'm looking for, the tension and I always wind up, I get directed to that individual. Okay, I think we should go to the next, because let's do the next remote, because it's almost half an hour. All right, so then the last remote, I did the Trump campaign. People had asked me to check on the Trump campaign, what it felt like to be in the Trump campaign, to actually be on the road, setting up the campaign, etc. This was kind of interesting. When you go into the energy, the target is the Trump campaign. You know what that energy feels like. We've all seen the rallies. So you're trying to get back to that. But when I tried to find that energy, this was much smaller. This was much, much smaller. And also the campaign staff has been dramatically reduced. This looked like they ran out of money. It was him, Hope Hicks, and a handful of other people, and the crowds are much, much, much smaller. Whereas before he might get a crowd of 10, 20,000, now it's like reduced to, say, 500 to 1,000. That's still great. It looks good if you're standing there with 1,000 people, but really much smaller venues, much smaller turnout. But also, I felt like my whole campaign staff, either a lot of people have gotten laid off, and it hasn't become public information yet. That's what I'm seeing with his campaign. And then when you go into Trump, the target, he's just the showman. He has to sell and market it. He goes out and is confident, etc. But you can see that it's just not the same energy. It's not the big showmanship with the music and the singing, and it's tiny. And part of that has to do with budgeting. What is left of Trump's campaign felt like it was only a handful of the loyalists. They are still working on the campaign. It's a much smaller group of people, far more serious financial cutbacks than the American people are led to believe. They're hoping to get more momentum. And part of that is because Don Jr. seems to be involved trying to make appointments and stuff to generate more money for the campaign, but they don't really have much time left. So those were the remotes. We had 3 targets tonight. Interesting? Any surprises? Not really. I think I was surprised at how diffused I didn't expect when I went into the Trump campaign for it to be to have the energy drop that much. That was surprising. That literally the enthusiasm wasn't there. They couldn't get the same number of people. I think people are afraid of getting sick also. All right, so let's go ahead. We'll start our blitzes. We'll just start with the general. We'll do this. Hiya to you too. Hi, Mark. Okay. You know the prayer. Let's we'll do it together. I want to call on white light protection for myself and my viewers as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and good angels to be with us. Give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journey to make the best decisions for ourselves, for our families, for the planet, for the people we love, and also to help those we may have strife with. And together we say, Amen. All right, we're just going to look at the energy over the country. And I feel completely without guilt because we spent a half an hour on England and Europe, or Britain and Europe. So now we're going to look at the United States. I think Mueller wants to go outside. Yeah, oh, did you do a remote also, Jay? Yeah, exactly. When you go into your meditative state, you can look at a picture. For those of you who are first learning to be heart-centered remote viewers, do the 3-step technique, right? Get yourself relaxed. Do the white light. Get yourself in your meditative state. Focus on your belly because your gut is your primitive brain. Say your target is Donald Trump. And then start feeling what your gut is doing as you meditate, and then start documenting what your gut is doing. Once you get permission from that person to go into their energy. That's the beginning. That's like rudimentary, starting to feel, this person makes me a little uncomfortable. That's like a very simple beginning technique to start to feel or sense people in the meditative state. And then also to separate that from your own bias. Like, am I reacting this way because I don't like them? Or am I simply observing? The ability to stand back and just observe how your body is reacting from the perspective of the other person. Because a heart-centered remote viewer, an empath, you're trying to be them. You're really trying, okay, I'm there, I'm on this, I'm putting myself in that situation. I did the technique properly. I got the scent. I found the person. I opened my heart. We became one energetically. And I now was so one that in a sense, that's possession, but it's possession by permission. And then you go into the energy in a state of love, and then you can look at things from the perspective of the other person and bring them back. So when you do that from the perspective of Trump, there's a feeling of just getting through this and not thinking about it. But this is a campaign. He's drawing a lot on his past knowledge. He's a showman. But money's tight, man. Money back and forth. This is also translating into the Senate races where if there's no hope that you can win, like what's going on with Hickenlooper in Colorado, he's not going to get any more money. This is something we talked about 2 days ago, I think. We went into the energy and Mitch McConnell and the GOP, the RNC, and how they were rationing money. Do you remember that remote? It was 2 days ago. So then today, it came out that if they know for sure there's no hope, you're not getting any more campaign money. The main places that they're focusing their money is like South Carolina, Arizona, the places, Ohio, Florida. Ohio can go either way. Now today it's red. Yesterday it was blue. So those are the places they're pouring their money. But you can see money back and forth with the RNC. People change. People are tired of this administration. They're tired of the fighting. They're tired of the immaturity. They're tired of this is people want to get well. They don't want to get sick. They don't want to die. They don't want to be broke. They don't want chaos. They don't want mucho macho. The archetype of the first house is the Queen of Cups, which is the great negotiator, and that crosses Ace of Pentacles. I think it's also the blue, color blue. I definitely think people are really angry. You can see the third house. Let me see if I can. How's that? If that happens again, just let me know and I will just switch channels because we have 2 speeds and the fast is better. And I was on the crappy link before. It's okay? All right. I'll make sure, I'll try to remember to always put us on the 5G. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, this is what we're entering into. But, it's like hunkering down, winter, the Walton family, living simply, living frugally. Jennifer? I don't know who Jennifer is. Let's see what we're doing here. 7th house, inverted, 8 of Swords. There's a feeling like we're coming out of a feeling of restriction in the United States. The final outcome is the King of Cups. It's Joe Biden's card. Within 4 days, there's going to be a legal confrontation between Joe Biden and Trump's and the GOP. There's going to be an attempt of theft or something like that. And they're going to try and do something that's really morally contemptible within 4 days, and they're going to get called out by Biden. It's interesting. I got Biden October 13th, October 13th. Everybody wrote it down. They dropped the case against Biden on October 13th. They decided they weren't going to, the Durham thing, I mean, they just, that they were going to either, it's not going to be, they said, not, I don't know, they said it wasn't going to be decided until after the election, and now they're saying there's nothing to it. I don't need to cough. I was coughing a lot the other day because I have a little bit of a thing in my throat, but it's still buffering. But no, I'm actually getting better. Is it okay? Still buffering? Okay, good. So the final outcome also, green capitalism over Biden's card. By the way, it looks like The other thing that was really interesting, every time you go into the remote of the United States, you have all these amazing businesses that want to do all this incredibly progressive technology, but they can't, but they keep getting rejected for federal funding, lobbying, etc., because the dinosaur economies like fossil fuel industry, etc., have the contracts. They're the lobbyists, and they put those people in DC. So it's really obvious when you go in as a remote viewer, you see all these people lined up to say, but we can do that. We can get rid of the CI2. We can do all these great things, but we need the government. So all of those people that are waiting in line are going to get grants and money and support from, you have the nice sun energy moving in. So within 6 months of Biden getting elected, by summer of 2021, it's just an explosion of jobs from all these companies doing this amazing work that, saving the planet. So it's this great idea, green capitalism. It's because green capitalism is not in conflict. If you are a democratic socialist, the good news is you can do both. A lot of democratic socialists have green businesses. The more you grow the shiitake mushrooms, say you're selling shiitake mushrooms to prevent cancer, the more you grow, the more lives you save. So it's better for the planet, right? So it's this idea that you're using renewable sources that are actually having a positive impact on you and the planet. So the more successful the business becomes, the more we thrive. It's a different way of looking at the economy. Whereas before it was eat or be eaten, we're now moving towards a completely different worldview about how that these resources can be renewable, and that a fun competition where what we create expands outward, which is far more in keeping with the natural order when you think about life and Gaia. It wants to expand its goodness. There is this idea philosophically, if you're just looking at it as an anthropologist, that the earth-centered religions that are focused on Gaia, loving the planet. We're going to switch to the Orisha cards now. That's in conflict with some of the philosophies of the New Age movement, because the beliefs of the earth-based religions are closely aligned with feminism. And as feminists, we acknowledge that there's injustice in the world. And so if somebody believes, no, everything happens for a reason and it's all good, and if that's the perspective, there's an argument to be made that that view of spirituality is in conflict with earth-based religions that are feminist in origin. Because if you're a feminist, you have to acknowledge that there's injustice. If there's no injustice, why be a feminist? So, conflicting ideas. Interesting, Jennifer. All right, let's look at New York now. We got a request to look at the Broadway shows, and we'll pull 3 Orisha cards. The Orisha are the spiritual forces, part of the tradition of the Yoruba of Nigeria. Oh, this is nice energy. This is very nice. You know what I like about this energy? It's like New York comes back, but it's a very smart way that they come back. This is frugality, right? 4 coconuts, right? 4 pentacles. This is a frugality card. What New York, this is something I saw before for New York. It looks like they're going to start doing small, inexpensive, fun things in order to promote New York arts, etc. And so it will come back slowly in really amazing ways. Money, growth, water, fluid, fertility. You know what? The final outcome, Four of Wands. I think that we're going to know in a very short of time that New York is going to be okay, because when you go further into the energy of New York, it says that people are going to be fighting and arguing artistically. So that leads me to think that there's probably going to be some kind of enthusiastic return to the arts, because when you go further into the energy, it's like people are competing and arguing about various different venues. So people need to be creative, and artists need to create, and they will find ways to bring the arts back. Yeah. I love New York. I lived there for a few years. The Sosa documentary was excellent. Yeah. So I've got myself in a bit of a pickle. I should probably ask you guys some advice. I wanted to do the continuing education gastroenterology lecture tomorrow at Harvard. It's an all-day lecture, Harvard. It's accelerated course on gastroenterology. So I signed up for it. I forgot that Harvard is in Massachusetts. So, doctor, med school, we're used to getting up at like 5, 6 in the morning. If you got early rounds or whatever. When they're starting rounds in Boston, the lecture, 7. I'm going to have to be up at 4 in the morning for this thing. Should I do that, or should I just, I don't know, 4 a.m., an all-nighter? I mean, like I'd have to get up at 4 in the morning, and then it's 8 hours of lectures, but the subjects are amazing. Do it, right? And then just have a nap, maybe. I'm probably going to do it. I'll just get up and make myself a coffee. Yeah, I'm going to do this Blitz and try and go to sleep. Yeah, I'll do it. It's really good. It's good subjects. Okay, there was another thing I was going to be looking at. Can people remind me what it was? It was a GOP question. Didn't somebody have a GOP question for me? Yeah, I think it's fine. William Barr and Dianne Feinstein. Thank you. Okay, we're going to look at Dianne Feinstein first. I'm going to use 2 different cards today. I feel like things are winding down for Feinstein. She's considered fairly conservative. I mean, I think she was raised Orthodox or conservative Jewish. I mean, she has a dress code. I know someone who was her intern. You couldn't show up without a dress, it had to be so many, an inch or so down, past the knee, no pants. She was so conservative about dress that the intern complained that she should be a Republican. But walking away from something she's already built, the moon, complete confusion, devastation. So I don't think that she was prepared for the kind of backlash she's getting. Look at this as the outcome. Also, the moon is there. Is she like out of it or something? Does she not? I think she just wants things to become efficient. And I think she's gotten to a point, magician's moving in, Feinstein is, that she just wants to get on with this. I think she was impressed by the fact that people spoke to one another with respect. And I think that that was what she was referring to. It wasn't the screaming, which only made us look crazy. It wasn't an effective, maybe if we had come up with another way to protest, but I think that might have been part of what she was talking about. Because Lindsey Graham had complained in the past about our behavior. You know, Lindsey Graham likes people to be polite. Gotta be polite. Yeah, I mean, I've hugged and done things. I've accidentally shaken hands. I've done things. With COVID, it's hard to, yeah. Yeah. Well, she was not endorsed by the Democratic Party the last time she ran. The other guy was. And in the primary, I didn't vote for her because she was not endorsed by the Democratic Party. Okay, we're gonna look at we're gonna look at Barr. We'll pick three cards. Leave me alone and let me do my job. You know, it's always what he says. He's just at his desk and we can never get in. This person's becoming increasingly isolated at the Justice Department. It's like the honeymoon is over between him and Trump, and he remains isolated and alone doing his job. He doesn't have to be Trump's friend in order to do his job from his perspective. It's his job. So this is somebody who he works very hard, is micromanaging, and feels that he's gotten a lot done in the Justice Department. Strong position. However, the rift between him and Trump is probably permanent, but I don't think, to be honest with you, that Barr entirely cares. Because from Barr's perspective, when you go into this energy, he's gotten to a point, he's doing his job as he sees it. But this is not a love match anymore between him and Donald Trump. Let's look at Pence. What is going on with Mike Pence? It's kind of weird, though. You saw that their relationship might be coming to an end. And it's like Barr doesn't care. Whatever. Like me, hate me, I'm still doing the same job. That's what Barr is saying. I'm not seeing sickness with Pence. Pence has also refused to take? Pence has refused to take test? You know, it's weird. This is the weirdest energy. It looks like everyone's yelling at Pence in a couple of weeks, and Trump has left. And Trump flees, and then Pence is stuck having to answer all these questions. Look, this is Pence's card, conflict over Pence. The person next to him is running mate, Flim Plum Man, flees, theft. Final outcome, he stands alone. Honeymoon, celebration. There's definitely a dip in the energy when we got hit with COVID and Trump said, well, Pence is going to take care of it all. It was almost like he handed over a huge swath of the presidency, and that drop might have been why, you felt when you followed the energy and then you got to 9 months prior to the end, there was this drop in Pence. So in a sense, he kind of like handed over half of his job, but it's exactly the same. It hasn't changed. The other flees, Flim Flam Man, and then Pence is alone dealing, smoothing it out. Bizarre, bizarre, bizarre. Okay, we have time for one more, then I'm going to call it a night. Got to get up early. Study how gastric emptying is affected by diabetes and obesity. It's one of the lectures. No. I mean, they're just going to scrap that like a Model T or something. It's like, put it on the scrap heap. And that's what I feel like when I go into that energy. I never felt like there was anything that was going to come to the Mueller report, because when as a remote viewer, you have the target, and then when I would lock onto the target, I'd get pulled over here in the Mueller report, and I would never wind up at the Mueller report. I would always wind up looking at overseas money, looking at cryptocurrency, looking at lobbying, following the money all the way to the DC steps. And they keep saying publicly that Mueller didn't follow the money, but he had to have followed the money, because the way I got in was through Mueller. But when Mueller, he had this huge board where he was like following everybody and all of the connections. But when he did find the money, he didn't spend hours on it. He said, oh, there's the money. It got sent off to different investigative teams. I don't agree that nothing came of it, because so many people, including the NRA, got caught. So the investigations were going on vigorously, as they say. They were not shelved. A lot of people got charged after the fact. Bettina, her boyfriend, what was his name, Brody or something, he's pled guilty. So I think they caught pretty much everyone. The problem is that Barr has helped so many people get off. And I think that's the frustration for the FBI. Let's do DeJoy. They made him fix what he had broken. Oh, 6:30 in the morning. I should try and get some sleep. I took 2 NyQuil capsules, and I thought, well, this is going to be interesting to read after I've taken 2 NyQuil capsules. Yeah, Mueller passed the stuff on. He had to, because how else would I have gotten the information? The only way I got the information is went by using Mueller. The information I got, I kept saying that's not the Mueller report. When I saw the real, well, maybe. But when I did go into Mueller, I saw Mueller handing it to those existing investigations. There's no, how else would I have found the documents if the documents didn't exist? That's the point I would make to the other remote viewers that are watching. Like, if you find the documents and you're in the remote state and you're reading the documents and you're saying, hey, people, there's a cryptocurrency investigation going on. They're slipping money to Julian Assange via crypto, and they're going to be, it's like somebody wrote the document, otherwise how would you be able to find it? So what it looked like for me is that he would give a cursory look at that stuff because it would confirm that he was in the right direction. And then that stuff got passed off. But a lot of the overseas investigations, like the money coming in from Turkey, the bank in Cyprus. Now there's another 10 million they found that Trump got from, I think it was a bank in Egypt. So who knows? I mean, that could be anybody. The Israelis could have put money in Egypt, the Russians, anybody. Who knows? It's crazy. Valerian root smells like dirty socks, but Mila loves it. I love golden milk. And that's good Ayurvedically. You put a little nutmeg and a cup turmeric, a couple other things, and some warm milk with honey. And the tryptophan helps you go to sleep. One more. I want to do one more. See, the thing is that those of us who are readers or remote, we love this stuff. We can't stop. We can't stop. It's time for lights up. Okay, can we do one more? Oh, DeJoy, I'm sorry. What's going on with DeJoy? And then we'll be done. Wow, there's 1.1 thousand people here. That's pretty cool. Hi, everybody. Damn. Dang, 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 dang. He tied himself to a very bad horse. Tower crashing with Trump. Trump's going down and he's going down with Trump. Look at that tower inverted is his karma. This is his karma. And what's it attached to? Trump. Trump is going to destroy this guy's career, his life, everything. I mean, it's like the judgment is coming. His career's over. Trump. Well, that was fun. Marriage is over, inverted, flim flam man, juggling coin, the trickster. He was the victim of a con. He got seduced by a trickster. The romance, and he breaks up with the trickster. Death inverted. He lost his shirt. He's going to be financially wiped out from this whole thing. He lost. Failure within 6 months. He can't recoup his losses. He's going to court. He has legal. He's going to be accused of committing some type of a crime. Justice will be served. Those are some of the worst cards I've ever seen. Let me get an opinion from my readers. Anybody else seen worse cards than that? At least you didn't get the devil. Michelle, dang girl, thank you. She worked and she paid me. She was working. Did everybody? Are you still a moderator, Michelle? Or didn't know if you were still wanting to moderate. Oh yeah, she's still the moderator. All right, love and light to everyone. Thank you for being kind. Thank you for being understanding that I was a little under the weather the last couple of days. Thank you for understanding that I got a little cranky. I'm going to meditate. I think, if I fall asleep at 11, wake up at 4, and then I have a nap later in the afternoon tomorrow, I'll be okay, right? It's not too bad. All right, love and light, everyone. Sweet dreams, all that good stuff. Thanks again. Night.